Okay, just a short part to go while we finish off this little bit about heart and look at blood cells. So we just had recorded this equation and a worked example, and you were asked to try these two to apply what you've just learned. So using your purple pen, you should have these answers. Okay, now these answers haven't put in the equations, but make sure you do, because you could get a mark for that in the exam. Okay, well done. So we're going to take a closer look at blood. And blood is really quite fascinating because it's made up of lots of different tissue. So we have got, this is what we normally think of when we see blood, but if we actually centrifuge it, so we spin it around, what happens is the particles separate according to their mass. So at the bottom, we will get the red blood cells, or the erythrocytes, and they're all these little donut-shaped cells in the top picture from a microscope. You then get a very thin layer of white blood cells and platelets, and you then get plasma. So we don't often think about it, but actually the plasma, if we separate it from the rest of the blood, it is this amazing straw color liquid. I just want to point out in the diagram, you've got these different shaped white blood cells and some tiny, tiny, tiny little platelets between the red blood cells. You can see how the red blood cells dominate in the picture. Okay, so let's go and have a look at each type of blood cell in more detail. Okay, so if you write a heading components of blood, and I suggest maybe you turn your page so that it is landscape so that you can fit in all that I've put on this. So the first blood cell I'm going to focus on is the red blood cells, the donut-shaped cells, and they're sometimes called erythrocytes, but you can call them red blood cells. And they're this amazing donut shape. And this shape allows it to have an increased surface area to allow it to carry more oxygen around the body. So this is its function. It contains a very special molecule that contains iron called hemoglobin. And if you don't have enough iron in your blood, you can't form enough hemoglobin and you become anemic. So this hemoglobin molecule sits on the red blood cell and it grabs onto the oxygen that has diffused across the alveoli into the blood, and then it transports it around the body to the lungs. The heart pumps it around the body to that little cell in the baby toe. So what else do we need to know about the red blood cells? They don't have a nucleus, and like all blood cells, they are actually made in the bone marrow from stem cells. And red blood cells last on average for about 120 days. And then when they break down, that's what actually causes your poo to be brown in color. Don't forget that the moment you get a fold in biology, like with this biconcave disc, it's to increase the surface area for carrying oxygen. Now let's have a look at white blood cells, and this is great revision of paper 1 and the immune system. So there's different types of white blood cells, and you don't need to know the specific names. But eosinophils, they tend to kill parasites. Basophils tend to kill bacteria. Lymphocytes, we know, are involved in our immune system as well. And there's different kinds, and they all tend to have a very strange shaped nucleus. Now, their function, they're the soldiers in our body. They're responsible for our immune response, for attacking any pathogens that come in our body. So some produce antitoxins to kill bacteria. Some are phagocytes, which engulf the pathogen. Some are lymphocytes, which produce antibodies. Remember, with the matching antigen from the virus, for example. Then you get your memory T cells. They get formed after an infection, and they speed up the reaction in the future so that next time the concentration of antibodies is higher and it forms much quicker. And then you get those amazing killer cells which destroy pathogens. The next type of blood cell forms this amazing picture over here, and these are those tiny fragments of cells, also don't contain a nucleus, called the platelets. Now the platelets are too small to show in this diagram, but they have this amazing ability of releasing a set of fibers into your blood where you have got a poorly. And these fibers act as a mesh, as you can see in this diagram, to slow the flow of blood so you don't lose all those valuable red blood cells, and to eventually form a clot or a scab. Now, our platelets, different cells in our body, last for different lengths of time. Some last for a couple of hours, and some, like the memory T cells, will last for many, many years. Now, the final bit is the plasma. Remember, that's that straw-like liquid that the red blood cells and everything else is suspended in. So what kind of things can I find in my plasma? Well, of course, there's going to be the red blood cell, or the red blood cells, the white blood cells, the platelets. But it's also where the water that we drink is transported around our body. We'll find hormones in there. Remember, hormones are chemical messengers that travel in the bloodstream. There's all our nutrients that have been digested and are moving around. There's waste materials like the carbon dioxide from respiration. There's urea from the breakdown of proteins by the liver. And any medications or drugs will be traveling around in our bloodstream as well. So what I'd like you to do is pause the video. We've got to the end now, and I would like you to copy out these notes. Next lesson, we are going to be doing a heart dissection. So I'm really looking forward to showing you that, and we'll do some revision on the heart before moving on to the next subtopic, respiration. If you have time, please make sure that you update your revision cards as you go along so that you keep on top of your studying. Take care and keep safe.